We'll start this build off with the stop block. I glued 2 pieces of plywood together with one edge fairly close to inline. Now I say fairly close because I'm going to take this over to the joiner anyway to get that edge perfectly flat. I'll use that jointed edge against the fence and run it through the table saw to get 2 parallel sides. Then I'll cross-cut the 2 perpendicular edges at the miter saw. In that morning light, you can really see why you need some type of dust collection here. Then I'm going to use a small strip of oak to act as a stabilizer that runs in the track to prevent the stop block from racking back and forth. I'll get that perfect fit by sneaking up on it with the planer, checking back and forth in the T-track until I've got a nice tight fit. I'll drill a through hole in the block to accept a 1/4-20 bolt. Some people say that you need toilet bolts for this, but a standard 1/4-20 bolt works just fine. I'll use this knob from Rockler to be able to tighten it down to the table. Then I'll use some wood glue and CA glue to stick on the runner, then we'll hit the whole block with some finish. For the measuring tape, I'll take this piece that I know is 20 inches wide, and I'll push that all the way up against the blade and then lock the stop block on the other end. Then I'll use a marking knife up against the stop block to mark where that 20 inches falls. That mark will help me reference where to place this right to left reading tape. I'll just work in sections, pulling off the blue tape and applying a little bit at a time. This tape does sit behind the line of the fence, so there's no need to recess it. Lastly, I'll just trim the ends, and I'll do the same with a left to right reading tape for the offcut side. Before I begin work on the shroud, clean up this area behind the saw. It may be weird, but I find it satisfying vacuuming up a large pile of sawdust. Then I'll get the shroud top put in place and screwed to the sides. This will give me the size that I need for my cardboard template. First step is to make a cardboard piece that's the exact size of the entire opening. Then I took some measurements for the geometric parts of the cutout. The curved parts at the top will require some finessing in order to make them work. We'll start with this shape, then it's just a matter of going back and forth to the saw, chopping it up and down, sliding it in and out, and seeing where there's rubbing and where you need to add some more clearance. I use that final cardboard template to replicate that shape in 1/2-inch plywood and inset some magnets all the way around on both sides in order to snap it into place. Lastly, I added these handles so you could easily grab it on and off. So the shroud is meant to help with containment of dust that's produced by the saw, but we also need to collect it at the source. So for that, we'll go from the miter saw drop into this 4-inch flex hose, into a 4-inch to 2 1/4 reducer, into this connector, and down this small flex hose, and into the special 3D printed part that I got from Shop Nation. I'll put a link to that down in the description. I'd say that works pretty well. Some of you might have noticed that the cutout is only for perpendicular cuts. I felt like if I made the room necessary for mitered cuts in both directions, I would be removing too much of the shroud and it wouldn't really be doing its job. So when I do need to make a mitered cut, which is once in a blue moon, I'll remove the cover, make the cut, and that's a good time for me to vacuum the inside of the dust shroud anyway. So the miter station is complete. If you missed parts 1 and 2, where I built the bottom cabinets and everything on top, make sure to check that out after this. Thanks.